Hi! 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 My name is Mr. Joseph B. Quinto, and today I'm going to share an instructional video on pragmatic instructions in oral communication in context. You must be wondering how this all began. So, it's story time. I can still vividly remember my reflection paper in my semantics and pragmatics class. My reflection goes like this. I feel like my students need to develop their pragmatic competence in senior high school. They no longer know how to use English expressions, or probably they have no idea about how to use English expressions properly. Since I never communicate with my students in other languages besides English, I could totally pinpoint their lapses. Instead of saying, "Excuse me sir, could you please show me my grade?" they say, "What's my grade?" Or if they want me to repeat something, instead of saying, "Excuse me sir," or "I'm sorry sir," or "Pardon me sir, could you please repeat that?" or "May you please repeat that?" they say, "What?" And sometimes with the face. I know in my heart that my students are polite, as this is part of Filipino culture, but it's more than obvious that they need to develop their pragmatic competence in the use of the English language. That's the backstory. Moving forward, oral communication in context as part of the K-12 basic education curriculum is a core subject mandated to be taken by all grade 11 students. Its core description punctuates the development of listening and speaking skills and strategies for effective communication in various situations, which becomes an indispensable skill as they exit senior high school to become, first, members of the workforce, second, constituents in higher education, third, participants in business enterprises, and fourth, seekers of middle-level skills development. Thereupon, there's a need to revisit existing concepts in the curriculum to fully articulate the competencies expected from the students. Consequently, the kind of pedagogical knowledge and pragmatic instructions from English teachers need to be recalibrated as well. So, join me in revisiting existing concepts and theories in pragmatic instructions in oral communication in context. The first one is called communicative competence. Communicative competence isn't only a term, but also an umbrella which covers a broad spectrum of language use, language function, verbal and non-verbal dimension, style and register, and culture of the target language as well. For that reason, the construct of communicative competence has been particularly influential in the field of second language acquisition. The most representative and significant models are those of Canale and Swain, Celsi-Murcia, Thurell, Dornier, Bachman and Palmer, some of whom you've already heard. The end goal of any English teacher is to develop the pragmatic competence and communicative competence of their students. That's why we engage them and we provide them with a lot of opportunities. The second one is called pragmatics. Pragmatics is defined as a focus on language use in particular situations. It explains the elements that influence both the literal and the non-literal meaning in people's communication. It explores the ability of language users to match utterances with contexts in which they're appropriate. The third one is called pragmatic competence. The notion of pragmatic competence originates from pragmatics, a subfield in linguistics. It was identified as socio-linguistic competence and is defined as the knowledge of contextually appropriate language use. The fourth one is called interlanguage pragmatics. Interlanguage is a term given to an interim series of stages of language learning between the first language and the second language, through which all second language learners must pass on their way to attaining fluency of the target language. When pragmatics is studied within two languages, the term interlanguage pragmatics is more appropriate. The last one is called speech acts. The prime target of interlanguage pragmatics is speech acts. by far, speech acts like apologizing, complaining, complimenting, requesting, thanking, and the like have been the most popular goals of instruction because of the clear connections among linguistic forms, language functions, and social contexts. A speech act is simply defined as an utterance created by a speaker for an intended effect. The act may contain a word, several words, or sentences. Overall, we've talked about 5 concepts and theories in pragmatic instructions in oral communication in context, namely communicative competence, pragmatics, pragmatic competence, interlanguage pragmatics, and speech acts. This time around, let's define what pragmatic instructions are. Pragmatic instructions include instructional pragmatic approaches and techniques that English teachers utilize to teach interlanguage pragmatics. Language learners may not be able to notice that target language pragmatic norms may be different from those in their first language and could therefore benefit from pragmatic focus activities. What are these pragmatic focus activities? Let's find out. The first one is called Instructional Pragmatic Approaches. Instructional pragmatic approaches attempt to present a pedagogical model for the integration of pragmatic competence in the language classroom by following a deductive or inductive approach. The next one is called Interlanguage Pragmatic Awareness-Raising Techniques. Through awareness-raising activities, students acquire information of the pragmatic aspects of a language. The aim is to expose learners of the pragmatic aspects of the first language and the second language, and to provide them with the analytical tools through which they could arrive at their own conclusions of what contextually appropriate language use is. These are the techniques under interlanguage pragmatic awareness-raising techniques. The next one is called Interlanguage Pragmatic Communicative Practice Techniques. Interlanguage pragmatic communicative practice techniques are used for the production of pragmatic outputs. Learners practice speech acts to enhance their pragmatic competence, to engage them to produce information and outputs, and to let them practice social contexts. These are the techniques under interlanguage pragmatic communicative practice techniques. The next one is called Interlanguage Pragmatic Corrective Feedback Techniques. Corrective feedback is a technique utilized by teachers to attract students' attention to erroneous parts so as to lead to modified outputs, and is defined as responses to learner utterances containing errors. These are the techniques under Interlanguage Pragmatic Corrective Feedback Techniques. The last one is called Culture Teaching Techniques. In tandem with the development of communicative approach to language teaching and learning, the important role of culture as an interlinked part of language teaching and learning, and the necessity of incorporating culture to language teaching and learning have been recognized worldwide. Without the study of culture, language teaching is incomplete and inaccurate. These are the techniques under Culture Teaching Techniques. I hope that you enjoyed our instructional video on pragmatic instructions in oral communication in context. Once again, my name is Mr. Joseph B. Quinto, signing off.